Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for being here with me on this episode of Learning to Glow. We have Jarena Willacey, who is a skilled shamanic guide, trauma counselor, and energy alchemist dedicated to profound personal transformation. With extensive training in energy healing, fueled by her experience in healing her own body, she offers transformative retreats like the Illuminating Pathways Retreat, combining ancient practices with modern techniques. Jarena specializes in empowering women over 30 to overcome chronic health issues and emotional traumas, helping them harness their innate healing abilities for holistic well-being and personal growth. We had such a wonderful conversation about trauma in the body and how we can use energy work to help clear it. Jarena shares how she helps her clients with physical ailments, health issues, chronic illness, using her gifts as a trauma counselor and energetic healer. I really loved when she described her shamanic journeys and talking about different healing modalities such as EMDR. She was fantastic. I learned a lot in this episode, and I am hoping that one day she comes to Southern California and brings her retreats with her because I'm going to be the first to sign up. You can find all of her information and learn more about her retreats on her website. I will link everything for you in the show notes along with her socials, all her social handles as well. And I just wanted to mention, if you are a client of Simply Just Skincare, the holidays are coming up. This is our busiest time. We are going to have the biggest sale of the year. So make sure that you go over to my website and subscribe to our newsletter. This is where we announce all of the sales that we're having. Of course, every year we have a huge Black Friday sale that is really, really big. And we usually sell out product during the sale because it's the biggest sale we have all year, and every year I go even like crazier and bigger. So make sure you sign up there. And if you have any questions about skincare, what type of products are right for you, or any type of skin conditions, you can definitely send me a message and I will help you out there. So have a great day. Enjoy this episode with Jarena, and thanks for being here. Welcome to Learning to Glow, a show about wellness, skin health, and self-development. I'm your host, Jess. I'm a mom, entrepreneur, and skincare expert. I'm so excited to share tips on how to achieve healthy skin and bring amazing guests in the field of health, fitness, aging gracefully, and personal growth. Let's explore all different ways we can take care of ourselves as women, both inside and out, to truly shine. So let's get glowing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show today. I'm so happy to welcome Jarena. Thank you for being here on Learning to Glow.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me, Jess.
You are so welcome. I'm so very excited that we are talking today, and we have so many exciting things to talk about. And this is really a topic we haven't really covered too much on the podcast. So super excited. You are a trauma counselor, among other things we talked about before we started recording. You have a lot of expertise in so many different areas, but
Yes.
I'd love if you could just tell us a little bit about what you do and what you do with your clients, and then I'd love to get into your story too of how you got there. But first, if you could just share with us what you do and what a trauma counselor is, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, so thanks for asking. And again, thank you for having me. So, I got into trauma counseling because I started with energy healing, like with Reiki. That was literally one of the first things I did. But as I got other certifications and did other things, I noticed that sometimes some of the illnesses and people are coming back with things and saying, hey, this came back or that came back. And as I'm talking to them and also doing other research, I'm noticing that there's a trend within these people that they aren't healing because there's something deeper going on. And 9 times out of 10, it stems from a traumatic experience that they had in their lifetime. It could be from childhood or it could be from even a year ago. But the experience of that trauma has stayed in their body and in their mind and has affected them either physically or mentally, or the mental affects the physical. And, it just stems from there. So once we get down to the root of, what that traumatic experience was, and then working through that, not always bringing up every single little detail, because, sometimes, people are stuck in therapy for forever. So that's not always important. But, finding out some details and processing the emotions properly helps to actually heal the physical things that people are going through. So that's kind of the process that I take my clients through. How we get there might depend on the client. Everybody is unique. But that's pretty much what we do to heal a lot of different things in their life.
I love this. I love this so much. I don't think a lot of people know about this kind of work. And I think
Mm-hmm.
as someone who's dealt with chronic illness in my life,
Mm-hmm.
it's something that I've wondered about, because there is a real component to that, something that we have inside of us causing a physical
Yeah.
symptom or a physical illness or chronic illness even. And it's not something that you can go to a doctor and ask about. They won't really know about this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and I love that you started with Reiki. I do Reiki as well.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's such a great modality. So how did you, I know from reading a little bit about your story that you were in a car accident and you
Mm.
had some trauma there. So maybe you could tell us about that, and also how you even got into this kind of work.
Okay, well, so I got into this work before the accident, and
Oh.
honestly, that was one of the best things that helped me, because when I got into the accident, I was like, I already know how to do this. I already know kind of what the steps are. Now, there was still some growing pains, but the way how I originally got into Reiki was I was actually in a finance trading group, and one of the big things in that group was actually personal development. And you know how YouTube gets you. You start with one personal development thing, and then they have all these suggested things. And somehow I stumble upon Reiki, and just a light bulb went off that was like, this is what you should be doing, helping people in this way, not making money in the financial markets. So I, started with Reiki, and I got up to Reiki Master Level 3. And then I just went from there, did hypnotherapy. I got, certified being a shaman. I did Tanega Dalam, which was really helpful when I got in my accident, and I can talk about that too.
Mhm.
I did just various things, medical intuition as well, Silva Ultra Mind Theory, just a lot of different things to help heal the body. But as I was kind of saying before, I started practicing with people, and then, getting some paying clients. And as we were doing the energy healing, it turns out that I could affect, people's chemistry or their biochemistry really, and move these blockages either over the phone, through Zoom, or in person. It didn't really matter. And I was honestly kind of shocked about that, because I remember I had someone in Australia, and we were dealing with her sinuses, and she was like, oh my gosh, like I am so clear now, like I can breathe. I was like, wow, this actually works. But maybe, a year later or so, that same person was just like, my asthma is back. And I kept up with her some bit. So I knew she was going through so much. There was a lot of trauma there. And, as we started to unpack some of these things, I was just like, listen, your respiratory system is being affected, because it is your immune system is broken down pretty much because of all of the stress. There's so much cortisol, so much adrenaline just running through the system. You cannot rest. She has like 7 kids. That doesn't help either,
No.
So so when your body is going through all these things, and there's such an influx of these hormones that are supposed to be helping you, but they don't rest, they start to attack the immune system. So I found that through her, and through other people, when your immune system is so compromised, I can give you 10 really great energy healing sessions, just wonderful. You'll be fine for a day, a month, 2 months, or something like that. But as that cortisol starts building up again and everything comes back, and you're not dealing with the stress and the root cause of the trauma, really, everything just comes back. So that's when I started really getting into more, trauma counseling, and I got my certification there, and really started digging into, okay, now that I know that part, how does this affect the body physiologically? Because I don't always just want to stop at one point, so it's like, okay, the emotional part is there, how is this affecting your brain, how is this
Mm.
affecting, the other things. So I started digging into the medical side of it as well, and piecing everything together, and then I'm able to really help people with, okay, you're having thyroid issues because of this, this something that you went through, because you just taking hormone replacement therapy, or anything like that, some of these natural remedies are good for you, but they aren't going to last forever if we don't deal with the root of the problem.
Oh, I love that. So when you're dealing with somebody who has, a chronic illness
Hmm.
and you begin to work with them, is that the
Hmm.
main goal? So, is to really get to that root cause?
Yes, yeah. So usually what I'll do is, because everybody will come in with, oh, I have pain in XYZ, or they may have already gotten a diagnosis. If they don't have a diagnosis yet, they just say they have pain. I'll do some medical intuitive work to figure out what it is. I'll go through a shamanic journey, get them into a really relaxed state. I mix hypnotherapy with my shamanic, journeys, and find out what is happening from their body, sense what's happening. I believe in spirit guides, so I will tap into mine, tap into theirs, and see, or find out, intuit, have them tell me what is happening without the client saying words, because when they talk, a lot of times, they'll come from their experiences or what the doctor said. I'm like, I don't want to know what the doctor said right now. We need to
Right.
find out what's really happening. So I may take them through that journey. If they haven't been diagnosed with something, I might get a hit, and I might say, okay, something's going on with the kidney. Okay. They may go through their list of symptoms and stuff like that. And I'm like, all right, I like to work along with medical doctors, though, still, because I'm not a medical doctor, and I am not silly enough to think that I can heal absolutely everything as quickly sometimes as sometimes they can. If you break your leg, you need to go to the doctor. You don't come to me,
Right.
So if they have something going on with their kidney or whatever, I'll say, okay, you may need to go and let's get tests done, confirm what's
Mm.
happening here, because there might be something that you need to do on that end. Once they get the results, we'll go over it together. And then I'll be like, okay, you may need to do what the doctor's saying. You may not need to do what the doctor's saying. There may be natural ways. The doctor's going to put you on a pill, but I actually do herbs as well. I love making tinctures. I have this big book that I go through, and I'm like, these are the things I will make you a tincture, because this is what, will actually heal your body and not just have you on these pills for the rest of your life. So we can get rid of some of the symptoms first, so they're not in pain. When the body is relaxed and it's not in so much pain, now we can get into, okay, now what really happened? How did you get here? Because when you're heightened with so much pain, it's very hard for you to think this might have something to do with what happened when I was two. It's hard for your subconscious even to come up and flourish with that sort of information, because it's busy trying to help you survive. So once we go through all that process, and we're like, okay, now let's go back into a shamanic journey, or let's now, talk about seriously what's been happening. They may get visions in the journey and find out what the root cause was. And then we can say, okay, let's work through an actual process like EMDR to get rid of the emotions that are linked to that. And then they'll be able to, or we'll be able to talk about steps to physically do to just get your brain healing again. Because a lot of people don't realize that when you go through these traumatic experiences, whether as a child or now, your brain literally changes. Your hippocampus, your amygdala, your prefrontal cortex, all of these things rewire. Your prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of getting your emotions, like processing things, it shrinks when you go through trauma. When that thing happens, you cannot process things well. You cannot go through life and make complex decisions and stuff like that. So people are going around thinking they're crazy. No, your brain is affected. Let's heal that. Let's eat certain things to help heal your brain. Stop doing certain things. So we go through a list of processes that I could suggest to them, like, okay, this is what you need to do to heal your brain so that you can now live well in this life.
Oh, yes. So, and that was one of my questions too, and you answered it. But how trauma plays a role in our health? Well, you
Mm-hmm.
just said, like this can. First of all, it literally changes our brain when we have
Mm-hmm.
experienced trauma. I think we're learning so much more about what trauma does to the
Mm-hmm.
body, and like
Mm-hmm.
that's more of a conversation nowadays. But it was not before, and it's still new for a lot of people. But
Yeah.
also, like how I'm interested to hear your thoughts on like, so we are experiencing a traumatic event, our brain chemistry can change. We can then have problems physically that can manifest into a physical illness or maybe recurrent colds or like whatever. You could attack the immune
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
a question I have is, what about like where it manifests? Because I had a friend who, very, very intuitive friend, and she had a thyroid problem. And
Mm-hmm.
she realized like her whole life, she was not never speaking her truth. Like
Mm-hmm.
she just let, people pleaser, never spoke up for herself. And she thought I developed this thyroid issue. One of the reasons could be because of how I just have not used my voice. I have not spoken, and I would love to hear your thoughts on like how sometimes a traumatic event could lead to specific types of illnesses in the body for one person and maybe not for another person.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So I love this question. It's so deep because there are a lot of people in the spiritual world that will say anything with the thyroid, throat issues, it's because you're not speaking your truth. And I want to take it one step further and say, why? What
Right.
happened? Why do you feel like you couldn't speak your truth? Who silenced you?
Mm.
Did someone say you can't speak up? Oh, adults are in the room, children stay quiet. Or did you maybe say something like, hey, I saw mommy do this, and your dad was like, no, and talk down to you, or something like that, like, or in school, did you maybe try to say an answer and the teacher shut you down because it wasn't your turn? Maybe you forgot to raise your hand or something like that. Somebody yelled at you and that triggered it, right? So sometimes knowing that you're not speaking your truth, but not knowing why or what happened initially doesn't help so much, because in the back of your brain or somewhere in your brain or in your subconscious or in your biofield is still stuck that original wound that you need to heal. You need to fully process. You need to understand, hey, I'm okay. I can say this now because that person didn't understand or they didn't mean that. You may need to have a conversation with that person in real life, or you may not. It just depends on each person. Sometimes it's not necessary, but I think sometimes it's necessary to go back and find out why, because sometimes we like to sugarcoat things and think that, we just have to stop at that first level. So you asked, or you mentioned something about the immune system also.
Mm-hmm.
So this was interesting when I learned it too, because a lot of times people say, oh, the body keeps the score. Love that book, by the way.
I do too.
And,
So good.
but some people say it without even really realizing what it means. But the thing is that when you have these chemical responses, okay, so the cortisol and the adrenal glands are just like pumping out this adrenaline, it tells everything else in your body to stop. It completely tells your immune system, you don't need to be doing anything right now. You got to completely shut down because we need to fight, or freeze, right? Or freeze. So, when that happens and your body gets stuck in that, and then you keep getting triggered again and again and again by the memory, because remember, your hippocampus and your amygdala are now firing like crazy, right? Every time you hear a familiar sound of what happened whenever that trigger happened, or whenever the original thing happened, your amygdala is like, hey, we're going through something crazy again. Let's pump all this adrenaline and cortisone in her system. So that's going crazy and telling your immune system again to stop working. And that's when you start getting the chronic diseases. That's when you start getting the colds and the flus and your inflammation and, all of these things. in your thyroid, or, in IBS, especially like all the autoimmune systems, lupus, etc. Those things are, your body attacking itself because your immune system has been shut down for so long. So it's not just a genetic thing or an environmental thing. Yes, sometimes those things can play a role, but your immune system is just shut down because of that trauma. We need to calm the body down.
Oh yeah, I love that. That's such a good answer. I feel like that's another I've had like Chinese medicine and
Mm-hmm.
acupuncturists come on
Mm-hmm.
too, and they also talk about, there's like a certain area sometimes that we're predisposed to, I guess, like if we have too much anger. Like they talk
Mm-hmm.
about that. Too much anger, maybe you have a problem with your liver. So like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's so many different interesting ways to look at all of this, but having that physical like breakdown of your immune system. I can imagine that's the same with your digestion. If you're having
Mm-hmm.
too much cortisol and your adrenaline, it's like, well, this isn't a time to digest our food. So then you're going to have
Mm-hmm.
digestive issues, which
Mm-hmm.
I've
Exactly.
had that experience as well, where that is a issue that I've had. And I have had like that adrenal craziness and too much
Yeah.
cortisol, which is like,
Yeah.
it does affect so much of our physical health. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to, just because you've mentioned it a couple times, people might not know what a shamanic journey even is, or being a shaman, or something, working with someone that does what you do. If you could just talk about that for a little bit, I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah, so it's funny, growing up, I did not do anything like this. We weren't raised like this or anything like that. But, it's just one of those things that as you go in this healing journey and learn about different ways to heal, this was something that just really called to me. Um, so when I do, and just so we're clear, shamanic journeys can be different based on the shaman. Okay, there are different types of shamans, and sometimes it just has to do with who you were trained by, how you were trained, and again, how you are just being led to do your shamanic journeys. So the way how I usually do it is it's almost like a hypnotherapy session, right? But we'll get into a point where we do some breathing, calm you down, and then I love to take people into just the most beautiful scenic meadow or forest, or it might be out in the night sky like the galaxies. Some people like that type of scenery, just to get them into a calm space. And then in my shamanic journeys, we usually go down into what you call lower earth. That is, usually the place of deep healing. We will meet your ancestors or your guides, or I don't always know who will show up. I invite everybody, God, Jesus Christ, your angels, Archangel Michael, whoever wants to come, that is a, benevolent spirit to come and help guide us through this. They are welcome. So it doesn't matter if you're Christian or not, because I believe everybody, has access to these spirit guides who are here to help us, right? So when we are, in this mental state where, we're in lower earth, I will usually take them there with drums. I love using my drum, my shamanic drum, to, get them there, because also music is so important to me. Your body vibrates different levels, right? Different frequencies. And if I can get your cells to vibrate in a certain way, in a pattern, it actually encourages the cells to relax, and it encourages certain spirits also to
Hmm.
come in that area, or in that frequency. We'll just say frequency, right? So get them to the drum, or get them there with the drums, and then it'll just be a period of silence. And then I may put on some like shamanic flute music, or rain sounds, some sort of element like that is very helpful, because again, uh, the sounds will help to get you into a certain frequency, because what we want to do is drop your brain level down, as close to like delta that we possibly can. And even if you fall asleep, that's perfectly okay, because your subconscious never falls asleep, right? So get your brain waves as low as we can, because that's when the subconscious will be able to pop up and say, okay, I am willing to hear what, the guides may have to tell me, or I'm willing to just hear what my body has to tell me. Because even for whatever reason you don't believe in that, that's perfectly fine. Your body is still going to give you messages. Because I remember, I'm going to use my mother as an example. She doesn't believe in like anything, right? She's highly, highly religious, right? Goes to church every single Sunday. When I got into this kind of stuff in the beginning, she was just like, "Are you Buddhist? What's happening?" I was just like, "No, mother." But I took her on a journey once, and her mind is so powerful. I was trying to take her into the forest, and she went up into the stars. And no matter what I said, she was like, I was just up there in the galaxies. And her aunt came to see her. Her aunt was passed away for years and years. Her aunt visited her, and what basically gave her a message about a physical ailment that she was having that was linked to nothing with her migraine. She went to the doctor. The doctor was telling her, oh, you need to take this pill for the rest of your life and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, let's find out what's happening. Her aunt came and said, this is the problem. You need to deal with this. And as soon as she got out, we talked about it. And I was like, I got that answer too. But sometimes you need to hear it from somebody else, right? And so you get answers there. People will come to you. You have help no matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you've been through, what religious, denomination or anything like that you are. Somebody's going to come to you, and if they don't come to you, as long as you're relaxed, they will come to me. And then I will be able to say, okay, your uncle came to me and said that you need to deal with this, or it's this part of your body, or, hey, tell me what happened when you were 5 years old, and next thing you know, the uncle assaulted them, so things will always pop up in a shamanic journey. When we feel as if the session is done, we'll close it out, come out of middle earth or lower earth, come back up, and then we'll talk about it. People will have their visions, they'll say what they say, or maybe they say they just felt peace, or maybe they say they didn't see anything, but now they just feel a certain part lighter. And then I'm usually, writing things down before, and I'll be like, okay, I did a scan of your body. I, cleared your chakras. When I got to this chakra, I felt this. I got to that chakra, I felt that. When I got to here, this is what came up. Let's talk about this. Or does this ring a bell? And there's always something that comes up, and they're like, yes, I haven't thought about that in 10 years, or that completely makes sense, or yes, I need to do this more, something like that. So I love shamanic journeys because they always bring up things that you would never think, and then we can go from there, and then we can start doing EMDR and like all the other things that traditional therapists may do at that point, if it's even necessary.
I have chills from that story about your mom.
Yeah.
It's so funny. When I first was learning Reiki, my teacher said, you don't have to believe for it to work. And
Mm-hmm.
that's like the perfect example of like your brain can be like, okay, I have a lot of people in my life that are like that too, that are skeptical, which,
Mm-hmm.
that's just, they're more practical. And I'm not. I'm like I can be very, I am open. Like I'll
Yeah.
try anything. I'm like, I love to learn about all of this because I believe
Yeah.
in it, but there's
Yeah.
people in my life who don't. And that's the beauty of it, is that they
Yeah.
don't have to, it won't block what needs to happen, even if they're
Correct.
having those thoughts. So I think that's so beautiful. And it's such a good explanation of what it is, because I've been through a journey like that. And when I signed up for it, I had no idea what to expect, but I'll do it. I'll always do
Yeah.
it. But yeah, I have, it was very similar to what you're describing it to be. If you could talk to us a little bit, because you did mention EMDR. It's
Mm-hmm.
when you're like working with a client, or maybe after the journey or after the messages have been downloaded, what are some modalities that you use? I know that's one. I don't know if people listening know what that is, so maybe you can talk about that too.
Yeah. So EMDR, eye movement desensitization, I think it's repurposing. Don't quote me on that because I seem to blank on the R for some reason right now. But what it is So when you're going through a traumatic experience, like I said, that frontal lobe just shuts down, right? So you're not processing what just happened. And if you go through life and don't think about it, you're always told, just move on. It's okay. It's not a big deal. You're an adult now, that kind of thing. And you never really sit down and say, okay, this is what happened. It wasn't my fault. Or even if I had a part to play, it's okay now. I forgive that person. I forgive myself. I am safe now. I do not need to feel, like I have to fight or flight or, do any of those things. If you never went through that, then your body is just constantly in that high state of, frightened. That's just anxiety.
Hmm.
So, EMDR is a process where you are able to sync up the right side of your brain and your left side of the brain and get it to a point where you're either following someone's finger that's moving from left to right, or some people do tapping. They may, like you fold your arms and you tap on both sides, or they may tap on their chest, or they may just use like a screen with a ball that goes from left to right. Those are pretty much the methods that people usually use. And what you're doing is you're going to repeat, the therapist will repeat something along the lines of the scare that you happened, or the negative thing that you went through. Obviously, this is going to vary per person, but they'll say some sort of statement like, okay, when you were assaulted, what did you feel? What did you see? Just different questions like that. And then sometimes you may answer out loud, sometimes you may not. You may just, feel it. And as you are tracking of going from left to right, your brain is actually able to process exactly what happened in a calm manner, and in a way that you're present now, so that you can basically get through that and know that now everything is okay. The science is not perfect. Some people don't
Hmm.
fully understand why it is that this works, but moving your brain or your eyes from left to right, or doing that bilateral stimulation. But when you're able to do that with the negative thoughts or emotions that you're having, you're able to get to a place where you're more calm, and you understand, what happened. And then you would end it off with like a more positive statement of, you're safe now, or, you're okay, it wasn't your fault, you forgive yourself, or, whatever it is at that point. Then you would have like a whole closing session after that as to, maybe some CBTs, cognitive behavioral techniques afterwards, as to how you can process with that. But just the basic fact of going through the negative emotions again now will help you to process your brain to really go through that and know that, okay, that was then. Now let's figure out what's now. We are safe now, so that you can, get to the next state.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. So when you have someone who I don't know if a lot of your clients are mostly like physical chronic illness, or if you have people that just have, like, for example, anxiety, just generalized anxiety. They're just anxious kind of all the time. Do they sometimes have no idea that they've had the trauma, or they're like, I don't know what happened, or, I can imagine, and I have a psychology background, so I can imagine some of this is just pushed down and they
Yeah.
don't even
Yeah.
know why. So is that something that you see? And then, for example, with the anxiety one, is that a common complaint that you see, where I have anxiety, but I don't know why, and I'd like to get to the bottom of it?
So I will be honest, in my field of work, when people come to me, it's usually physical.
Okay.
However, the truth is that almost anyone who has a physical issue has anxiety for some reason.
Yeah.
Like almost everything is tied together. But even, let's just say we get past the, physical state. I have had people come to me with physical issues, and then, they come to me later saying, okay, that is healed, but now I'm anxious about something, or I have this emotional issue going on, or just say I can't deal with XYZ in my life. I don't know how to, make a decision about whether I should leave this person or take the next job, or, whatever it is, mental things. I will say it is important for us to deal with that anxiety now, because I don't know of very many cases where anxiety doesn't eventually lead to a physical issue. Okay.
Mm, yeah.
um, because again, you are on high alert and your immune system is going to be shut down at some point where you will have some sort of, or you may have some sort of physical issue. And yes, to answer your question, there are many people who have no idea what their trauma is. Um, I didn't know what my trauma was, from years ago. It wasn't honestly until, very recently when I really started getting more into the trauma work. I was thinking about other people. And then one day I was just like, wait, hold on now. I am a human. What childhood trauma have I been through? And, I started kind of, analyzing myself, and I was just like, oh my God, like we moved a few times. I was born in Belize, but then we went to California when I was 2. We moved back to Belize when I was 6, and I was there for a long time. I had such cultural shock when I went down there, and the kids were so mean, and I became a bully because they were bullying me,
Mhm.
and that was just a defense mechanism for me. It took me years to stop hitting people. you know that was my defense mechanism. I want to know, why am I so mean? That's why I'm so mean. I had to defend myself.
You're protecting yourself. Yeah.
Exactly.
Aw.
But there are other things that happen too. So, but it took, I would not have known that if I wasn't in this field,
Yeah.
because I've never thought about that before. So yes, there are a lot of people who suppress it. Also, the brain does this on purpose. You remember, the brain loves you. It wants you to survive. So it is going to do whatever it can do to have you get to the next day, right? Thinking about what happened to you when you were 2 years old does not help you get
Mm.
the next meal, or, get the money so that you can get the job to, pay your bills or whatever. So it purposely suppresses these things. Also remember, your hippocampus is actually in charge of your memories, right? When you go through a traumatic experience, you have dendrites in there, that are cells that die, literally die, when you go through traumatic experiences. And if you've been through several of them and you do nothing to heal your hippocampus, it is dying and shrinking, and now you are less able to remember the things that you went through. So when people are like, oh, I have such a bad memory, well, you may have an issue with your hippocampus. So the good thing is, though, you can do things to build that, right? You can rebuild every single part of your body. So you can eat certain foods like walnuts. I remember this one doctor, he was just like, he was asked by Lewis Howes, he was actually on his show, and he was like, what are the 3 best nuts you can eat? And he said, the only nut you really need to eat is a walnut. It literally can heal everything. And there's another person, Jim Quick, who's the guy who does a lot of brain work. He says he has a long list of things that you can do to eat for your brain, like wild caught salmon and blueberries, and of course green leafy vegetables. If you just eat these things alone, a lot of omega 3s, fatty acids, that kind of stuff, they can literally rebuild your brain without you having to do 10,000 brain games. Although those do help too, but you can do things like just simply eating foods to help to rebuild parts of your brain so that you can process the emotions and the trauma and remember things so that you can process it. Because if it's buried, it doesn't help, right? You kind of need to remember it, heal it, and then move on. So yeah, that's pretty much the deal with anxiety and forgetting. And a lot of people do forget it because that's what the brain does. That's what's made to
Yes.
do.
Yeah, it's there to protect us, even though that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't serve us sometimes in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
But I wrote
Mm-hmm.
myself a note to eat walnuts because
Yes, yes.
that is that I eat them once in a while. I love there was this article that I saw, and it was like showing different foods and how they help different organs and
Mm-hmm.
how the shape actually looked like the organ.
Yeah,
And that's like walnuts. Walnuts, they
yeah.
look like a little brain. It's good to remember it that way.
Let me just give you one quick tip on walnuts.
Okay.
It is suggested that you have no more than 7 a day, 7 whole
Okay.
walnuts. Okay.
Okay.
They can, if you eat too many walnuts, it can actually cause, bloating if you have maybe if your digestive system isn't as healthy as well. So suggested serving size is 7. Don't overdo it on the walnuts, but it's still I eat walnuts every day,
Oh,
every single
good.
day.
Okay,
Yeah.
I love that tip. I love too, like, these tips of the nutrition, and it's just another reminder of how inside outside mental, it's like the mind body
Yes.
connection is
Yes.
so,
Yes.
and that with you it's mind body spirit. This is all, we're all connected. This healing process isn't just one way. It's like
Mm-hmm.
we're holistic. I would love if you could tell us a little bit. I saw on your website that you offer retreats. And I can
Mm-hmm.
imagine this is incredible for people who are trying to heal and get through and discover what some root causes may be, or, dealing with all of these issues so that they can come out better. And when is it going to be in Southern California? That's my second question. Please come here, but tell us about your retreats.
Well, to answer the last question, we're definitely wanting to branch out to different places. So I will keep that in mind. But I love retreats because, there's so many things you can do online. You can do everything online nowadays, so many certifications and, one day retreat, just online and whatnot. And some people like it's the same as in person, but the truth is, everybody has an aura. We have a biofield, which is just, the literally the magnetic field that is inside and outside of your body, right? In that biofield for each person, it holds everything. It holds your emotions. It holds your power. It holds your empathy, your sympathy. It holds your emotion to help others. When you are in the presence of somebody else's biofield, you are affected by that person. So if it is if there are positive people around you, people who are there to help you, or even just people who have been through what you have been through and can connect with you on that level, you guys have empathy for each other. The bond that is formed in person is so strong, and just being around other people is actually able to heal you. There's actually a study that was done that stated people actually die 50% faster when they don't have a lot of social interactions.
Hmm.
So I wanted to do retreats because I was like, in person is just so much stronger. Even the Reiki, yes, it is possible to do it online, but the healing can be accelerated when you are in person. So we actually have two retreats. One of them is in October, and that is specifically for women who are wanting to either transition from a job, like they're in, some job and they're like, oh, I hate this. I want to do something else, but I don't know what. Or they could, not have a job. They could be stay-at-home moms, but just know that they aren't living in their purpose. They are not doing what they're supposed to do, and they feel miserable, or maybe they have empty nest syndrome because they're older and they literally have an identity crisis because they were a mother all their lives. Now they don't know what they are, right? Some of those people may need some guidance to make the next step into what they want to do. So we formed a retreat, offers, sound healing as well as yoga and specific workshops that are put together to guide people, to bring them from, okay, this is where you are. These are the thoughts that you may have been going through. Um, we may need to talk about how you got here, some other trauma or negative experiences that you went through to get you here, and then okay, now we may go through a shamanic journey to find out what are you supposed to be doing, because some people literally have no idea. Usually I will tell people, and this is a good tip, what did you want to do as a child? Usually it's like around age 7, right? What was that thing? What did you love to do? Because it's usually linked something somewhere around there, right? Even if it was drawing, you're like, I don't know what I want to draw. Okay, let's go on a journey and find out what you should be. What did you see? What vision did you see? Something like that. So we'll go through processes like that. Where we will get people to eventually, write a vision board, or, maybe write things out in their journal, however they, may want to do it, so that they can get more clarity and connectivity to who they really are, and just be empowered to step into the next version of themselves. So that's a 2-day retreat in October. In November, there is the Illuminating Pathways Retreat. That retreat is specifically for women who have been through trauma. And quite honestly, is for everybody, because who hasn't been through some trauma, right? Which is, kind of another thing that I would like to talk about after this, with people just not recognizing what they've really been through is traumatic. But with that retreat, we're going to, again, walk through how, did you get here? What happened? We'll have journeys, we'll have energy healing. At that retreat, I'm having someone actually come in to do a Lucia light therapy session. Have you ever heard of Lucia light?
I haven't.
So I've experienced it, and it is truly amazing. It was one of the first times I realized that I could like really see into my past. It is a piece of technology that is a light that shines right here at your third eye. It's a white light. However, the way how, the light's just bouncing off of things makes you actually see color. So your eyes are blindfolded, but you end up seeing color. You end up seeing just beautiful images and visions of things. In there, you'll most likely either go back or you go forward. You'll see, something in your past that might help you, or you might see something in your future, that you need to see, or again, present. Now, we don't know what, because again, it's all whatever is in your third eye. So for people who are blocked, who are like, I don't see anything when I meditate, it's just nothing, I don't know what I'm doing, or, I have no sense of intuition, this light actually helps to, unblock that, and get them to the next level. So that's going to be one of the first things we do on that retreat. So the rest of the days are, more illuminated for you. Yeah, so there's that. We'll have some water ceremonies in that as well. We'll also work with some crystals. We have somebody coming to do a divination session also. She's highly gifted and is able to really connect with your ancestors and be able to, ask specific questions about the past or the future. So yeah, there's a host of things that we're doing there. And obviously the trauma work, we'll do some EMDR, we'll do things in order to help process the past and the emotions now, so that we can get them into a more healed version of themselves. Because a lot of these people also have physical issues, right? Like we got to go back and work with that trauma so that we can heal the physical, and then we can do, more of the hands-on Reiki and use some of the more modern technology also to help heal.
It sounds absolutely amazing. So for anyone who's interested in going to a retreat or just finding you to work with, where can they find you so I can link this in the show notes?
Yeah, so my website is infinitewavesofhealing.com. You can also go on my Instagram. It's Jarena Willacey. I'm sure my name will be spelled somewhere.
I'll spell it.
Yeah. It's Jarena Willacey on Instagram. On TikTok is Jarena.Willacey. So yeah, and in there we'll have, my links to other things as well. So they can find me any of those places.
Amazing. Well, I will make sure to link all of this for everyone listening so it's easy to find. Just go to my show notes. And you are absolutely amazing. I really appreciate you for coming on today and sharing all of this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it. I get so excited when I get to talk about things like this. So thank you.
I do too. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please subscribe and review so we can reach more people who want to learn to glow alongside us. See you next time.